Hello, everybody. My name is Jason Bivens. I'm the general manager for DATAMARK. We're a public safety GIS company that serves the public safety community around the nation. And we're here today to talk to you about how Placekey can really have some crucial impacts on the public safety GIS data. And with me, I have Robert Murphy, who's our Director of Business Development. Bob is a longtime 911 director and has grown up in the public safety arena. Ashley Buzzeo, our product director for VEP, who is a GIS expert and comes from the higher education environment. Jeff Ledbetter, public safety GIS expert, who comes from public safety GIS background. And myself, I am a longtime 911 director also in large metropolitan 911 centers. So with that, we'll just kick it off. We're going to do a panel discussion. Hopefully we are interactive and you can ask some questions, which we're monitoring. So feel free to ask away. Bob, let's start with you. When we think about emergency response and mutual aid response, how do you feel like this idea, this Placekey, can really help assist the public safety community?
Yeah, thanks. So I think it's an incredible opportunity for us to leverage, right? In a public safety environment, whether you're working inside the PSAP, whether it's a field responder, any piece of that down to business analytics, the one key piece of information for us is really that location information. In the public safety arena, currently we're relying on AI, supplemental location information. We're also relying on the data behind all of that to provide us good analytics and to help us make informed decisions on location and data integrity. So I think from the Placekey perspective, what really excited me about that was, people and types of occupancies change quite often, and they move about. And the one challenge that we have, whether we're in a PSAP or we're responding, is what was there that's no longer there, right? And what's now there in its place. And I think the Placekey approach with the consortium of data experts and geospatial leaders that have come together in this atmosphere is really going to provide us a tool and some additional data set to make some very informed decisions based on current data and location information. But also, as you heard earlier in some of the previous presentations, is we're going to be able to kind of go back through and see the historical side of things. I look at things from my time in a PSAP, or I look at times as a field responder. I always remembered, growing up in an area that it was, maybe Mary's Bakery was here at this location, and over time that time has changed. And as we know, fielding 911 calls, a lot of folks will recognize places and locations based on names. And traditionally, I'm sure everybody has heard it of, oh, remember where Mary's Bakery used to be, right? Make the left right there. We're the second unit on the right from that perspective. If that place has changed and you have a new responder specifically looking at those mutual aid aspects, you have a responder coming in from a mutual aid entity or a large disaster or a catastrophic event, that you may have resources coming in from outside the location, outside the state, that by placing a unique location identifier such as Placekey's initiative, it's really going to, and to use Placekey's terms, it's going to unlock data, data location for us. So I think that's really the big push for me, and why I rallied around the Placekey initiative. And I think it's going to be incredibly important and provide some great information for our public safety responders.
Thanks, Bob. And with the idea of the world we're living in right now with COVID and a huge pandemic response from emergency services, emergency management, and that doesn't stop the disasters that we continue to face, natural and man-made disasters. And so there's just so much out there to so much powerful information that could be connected to really help the citizens that we serve, help the first responders with more information. Information is power. Jeff, could you talk a little bit about the big picture perspective and maybe give an example, a real life example of how data could really help from an emergency perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. So the public safety aspects of GIS, GIS is a fairly new technology to public safety. It's gaining in broad adoption. But the thing that has held up its adoption is the fact that emergency responders need analytics, and they need answers, and they need data fast. And so the answer to that in the past has been to create as much of that data as you could in a pre-compiled way, and so that when the question is asked, you can do the analytics as fast as possible. And the challenge with that is that as you create that in a pre-compiled way, it begins to age the second it's created. And what Placekey can enable are faster analytics, faster joining of current data sets, kind of on the fly as much as possible. Now in a 911 in a 911 setting, the need is ultimately very urgent, and so the data has to be pre-compiled. It has to be maintained in such a way that it's as updated as possible. But there are some other sort of analytics as incidents unfold in a less sort of urgent way. You know, things like wildfires in California, things like extended relief, you know, hurricanes and extended recovery and response phases. This becomes, Placekey will become invaluable, and it will aid GIS folks to help decision makers support their decisions with data and analytics as they need it. And so you asked for an example. A great example was an EOC deployment I was involved in Southern California, where the power went out across a major metropolitan area. And the most sought after data set that in 2011 that came up there was some critical infrastructure data about gas stations that had generators. Because the questions they were asking is, where do I need to send the fuel to keep the generators running so that critical infrastructure can remain in place and functional? And it came down to this key data set. Well, within that EOC, there just weren't data sets that had that already compiled. What we would come to learn in the after action report is that those data sets were available then, and are now in private hands, in business alliances and places where private industry has come together so that they can serve the citizens in a time of need. What they've been able to do since then is compile data sets, but the concept of adding a place key to each of those data sets would allow us to quickly join those private databases with the government databases about address and other location data that's relevant to the disaster at hand, do the analytics very quickly, provide the answers to the decision makers that here are the places you need to provide the diesel so that the generators can run, so that people don't run out of gasoline and they can get home safely despite the fact that the power is out all across the city. So that's one good example from my past where Placekey would have made a major difference.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great example, Jeff, and really exemplifies not only just first responders, but how it could be really powerful data that could be published for the public. You know, Ross Epstein, one of our colleagues from SafeGraph and the Placekey Initiative, recently did a blog in Geospatial World titled, "It's Time to Agree on a Universal Location Standard." And in that blog, one of the things he said is in that world, the one that Placekey intends to build, location data will no longer be disparate. It will be unifying. Can you maybe talk about that and talk about how that connects to what we do? And maybe Ashley can join in and talk about also how our product really ties in to helping public safety communities get their data to the point that it needs to be. Jeff, do you want to kick it off?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were asking Ashley a question. I'm sorry, give it to me again.
Sure. The quote that I just read you that Ross had given about Placekey really taking disparate data sets and creating unification. How, you know, I think your example helps that you just gave, but how else might you see that really unifying disparate data sets?
Sure, absolutely. You talked a little bit about COVID. I can see efforts around contact tracing requiring a lot of joins of address points against other data sets about locations where folks have been that may not even be GIS in its nature, may not be spatial in its nature. And I think this is another place where the concept of Placekey really comes into important play, is where you have databases that are what us GIS nerds would refer to as a flat database, where it's in a table. It's got, 1, 2, 3 Main Street as location information, but it doesn't have real world coordinates assigned to that. Yet I'm over here in the 901 entity, or I'm in the government GIS manager. I've got this great high quality set of address points that has the spatial component that database doesn't. If I can join those really quickly, I can come up with a database that shows visually on a map what that contact tracer needs to know, and provides the analytics for the data scientists and the epidemiologists to go in and kind of begin to predict what are the patterns of the spread going to look like, and what is it going to be, all the questions they would ask of the data, and use analytics. And frankly, as technologies like artificial intelligence and machine learning come to be, to know what those questions are ahead of time, they just need the current data to feed it. The Placekey becomes really useful because you can quickly join those data sets, feed it current data, and it can ask the questions and process the data, give it in support of decisions to the decision makers so that they can use it faster and with less sort of gymnastics to get the data to them.
And that's a really great point, Jeff. The idea of having information at your fingertips to make good tactical decisions is crucial in emergency response. And I think we all could give plenty of examples of that. So maybe Ashley, help us with, how does DATAMARK's VEP really help solve that problem for the public safety community?
There we go. Yeah, absolutely. So we have a product called VEP, which is a SaaS-based solution that really supports our customers who are government-based customers, local, regional, state entities, maintain their GIS data. So any type of data, primarily locational-based data sets. And one of the things that we all need to do as a community in the GIS community, from my personal perspective, is really push something like this Placekey initiative forward. I've bought in, I see the need, I know how much time as a GIS practitioner it can take to just clean up data, process that data, do data normalization, just to be able to link disparate data sets together. And so if we can start at the ground up from the raw data that our customers are maintaining, utilizing, and helping them really push forward, adding that Placekey into their data, working with the larger communities in the public safety world to really promote the value and the reason of why this is going to help down the road for other disparate data sets to also have that Placekey information. Man, are they going to hit the gold mine when they go to get information at their fingertips down the road. So, from a product perspective, we are really going to promote this effort. We are going to work with our customers, add Placekey into our database schema, and also really help our customers populate that Placekey at scale. And so we're trying to make it as easy to get this information to satisfy those future public safety needs. And I did want to just make one more point, JB, related to, not only do we have our products, but we also do a lot of service work with GIS data for our public safety customers. And, one of them is really maintaining accuracy of data, but also the completeness of that data. And so we're constantly looking for missing information, and we're linking disparate data sets to really fill in those holes. And so from that perspective, this initiative, this effort is really going to make that process and the completeness of a lot of these data sets for government entities build out. So,
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, Ashley, you teed me up perfectly. You teed me up perfectly to ask my next question, which was going to be to Bob, and that was, Bob, we like to talk about unlocking public safety data intelligence here at DATAMARK, and we do that through really empowering our clients to help them not only maintain and remediate their data, but also grow their data and help connect their data. Can you give us some examples of maybe where we're doing that and how that could be really powerful? And again, thinking about the whole idea of collaboration as we move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think from a public safety perspective, a lot of what Jeff has talked about and Ashley has talked about really goes to the initiative of leveraging data to make those decisions, right? Coming out of the 911 world, we held our data close to our chest, right? It was our data. We were the authoritative data set because we made the public safety decisions based on that data, and you couldn't have it, right? As we transition, in specifically in 911 into this next generation world, we recognize that we're going to use all different technologies, all these different data sources. We're moving into this the IoT world for the public safety perspective. But growing the data quality, the data completeness is going to be critical to that. And I think some examples of that is when the one thing we've done successfully with a lot of our customers, specifically in the southeast portion of the country, the west, the mid-Atlantic, right through middle America, is through workflows and through introductions of introducing folks to data stewards across, we'll kind of say across the aisle. Right, introducing the 911 leaders to the GIS leaders and GIS practitioners, introducing them to third-party data providers to make more informed decisions. So we've done that, I think, wildly successful. And going back to that from a public safety side, and how do we rapidly accelerate data, making data informed decisions in public safety is, as a 911 call taker, as a dispatcher, you have your hands literally, within arm's reach of a mapping interface, whether it's a mapping interface on your CAD system or your call handling equipment, inside the vehicle. If you're, a field responder, you have access to all this stuff. And for those of us who did not, and maybe today don't appreciate, the level of information inside that map is the data behind that map. So bringing all these pieces of the puzzle together, adding the Placekey information into that, we're really going to allow folks to look beyond that and peel back the proverbial onion. When you look at a map at first blush, it looks pretty. It tells you kind of a story, but with every informed decision that you need to make, you peel back one more layer, and there's more information. There's more data. One thing that really excited me about this also was, in the public safety world, we've talked about the Z-axis, right? And if you heard earlier on some of the presentations, they're really honing in on that. The co-founder of Unfolded was speaking, honestly and openly about how they're going to provide that data over. That's something we've been trying to get for a long time, right? 123 Main Street, they're in Suite 505. That's all well and great, but is Suite 505 on ground floor, or do I need to have the resources available, to start planning to make decisions that patient or the emergency is going to be 5 stories up? So again, I just think from that perspective, sharing all that information, making more informed decisions, it's going to allow us to leverage additional location information and save lives faster.
Absolutely. And Bob, as a public safety leader of the past, I can tell you that I needed to be educated by people like Jeff and Ashley, and you and I talk about this a lot. That education is really the key to power, and really understanding where you are and where you need to be is the thing that we focus on with our clients a lot, and we offer a lot of free webinar series. So if you all want to check that out at datamarkgis.com, we will publish stuff there and on our social media, and we'd be happy to help your non-GIS experts figure out what they need to do to make them successful. And with that, I'm going to close it. We thank you for your time. I'd like to thank my panel for providing great expertise and insight into the public safety community and the idea of Placekey. Thank you very much.